Gurbir Singh Grewal serves as New Jersey's 61st Attorney General and was confirmed by the New Jersey State Senate and assumed office on January 16, 2018. Before becoming New Jersey's Attorney General, Grewal served as Bergen County Prosecutor, the chief law enforcement officer of the most populous county in New Jersey. From 2010 to 2016, Grewal worked as the Assistant United States Attorney in the Criminal Division of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of New Jersey and had previously also served as an AUSA for the Eastern District of New York from 2004 to 2007. In addition to his work as a federal prosecutor, Grewal has also worked in private practice in both Washington and New York. Gurbir graduated cum laude with a Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service from Georgetown University and obtained his law degree from the College of William and Mary Marshall Wythe School of Law. Ladies and gentlemen, Attorney General Gurbir Singh Grewal.
We have shown as a community that we can overcome really any obstacle. We have shown that in the way we've thrived in the United States. And that's why we gathered this evening to celebrate all those who have broken barriers and shattered ceilings. That's why we recognize individuals like Dr. Kapani, the father of modern fiber optics. And that's why we recognize and celebrate those who have risen to the heights of business. Pioneering entrepreneurs like Navneet Chugh and Gurmeet Sodhi as well. And captains of industry like Jaideep Bajaj and Gagan Singh. And that's why we also celebrate those who have answered the call to service, individuals like Ravi Singh and Khalsa Aid, and individuals like Ravi Balla, the mayor of Hoboken, my good friend and a trailblazer in politics for Sikhs. But here's the thing, for a community that emphasizes service above self, a community that constantly, as we've talked about tonight, prays for the well-being of all, a community that's founded on combating social inequities, we as Sikhs have been slow to break barriers in the public service area. And to me, that really is the final barrier that we need to break, because it's one that fits so naturally with our Sikh ideals. And it needs to be broken now more than ever before, because I think to ensure the vitality of our generations to come, we really need to break that barrier and get involved in public service. And here's why. My parents, like many of you in this audience tonight, and perhaps like your parents, took a leap of faith nearly 50 years ago to cross oceans, to come to this country in pursuit of the hope of the American dream, the promise of the American dream. And in many ways, they've realized that dream. They achieved success, and they found that this was a country that accepted people that no matter what you looked like, where you came from, what you believed, or what you didn't, that if you were ready to work hard, you could achieve success in the United States. And through their example, they showed me that it was possible to achieve success without having to compromise your identity or your beliefs, that the two were not incompatible in any way. But in the process, they also reminded me that for all of the opportunities that this country has given us, we need to be forever grateful. Because to whom much is given, much is required. And so they taught me the need to give back. And I'm driven each and every day by that desire to give back. Not only by creating a better life for my own daughters, but also by engaging in public service, looking the way I do, and believing the way I do. But that doesn't mean that it's always been easy. Along the way, I've learned how hard we have to work to achieve and maintain the promise of the American dream. Whether it's overcoming the daily hateful and intolerant comments that you and I might experience in shopping malls and restaurants, or that I might experience in my work in the public space, or whether it's the physical violence that we're experiencing, as was referenced a moment ago, in the moment that we're living in. Physical violence directed at those who don't, quote, look American enough. Recently, it was people like Sahib Singh Nath, a 71-year-old turban-wearing Sikh gentleman who was brutally attacked outside of his home on August 6th of this year in Manteca, California. He was simply going out for a walk. Or 50-year-old Surjit Singh Mully, a turban-wearing Sikh man who lived in Turlock, California, who on July 31st of this year was attacked by individuals who told him that he did not belong in this country. Everything that we're seeing in our current political moment, all of this, I think should serve as a constant reminder that more work needs to be done to preserve the promise of that American dream. And that's why in every position that I've held, whether it was as a line prosecutor at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn, or as a county prosecutor, or even as Attorney General now, I've attempted to promote understanding and acceptance through my service, to show everyone through my work that Sikhs are a part of the fabric of this country, that we are doing our part to keep all of us in this country safe. And at each step along the way, I've also tried my best to ensure that the government, or at least whatever part of the government I've touched in my work, advance the cause of justice for all people. And I've also tried my best to ensure that the state treats all people fairly, respectfully, and responsibly. And here's the thing. I firmly believe that as more and more of us from the Sikh community, from all minority communities for that matter, push back together through engagement, through involvement, through public service, especially as we start to occupy these frontline public service positions, those positions that are so intertwined with the fabric of this country, whether it's in law enforcement, whether it's in the military, whether it's as an EMT or a firefighter, whether it's in a prosecutor's office, or as a school board member, or as an elected official, we can reclaim this moment. But it must begin with us in this room. It must begin with us answering that call to service, answering that call to seva, to help others, to ensure the well-being of all, to battle social injustice. Again, principles that are part of our DNA as Sikhs. And it begins with participation. I think it's important to stress that contributions can never be a substitute for participation. We can accomplish much more by being engaged in registering 5,000 voters and contributing $5,000. Sorry, Ravi. I can only say that because I'm not elected. But we must do more than support others that run for public office. We must nurture our next generation of leaders. And as Ravi mentioned earlier, we must realize that we need to start at the bottom, from the ground up. Before Ravi was mayor, as he mentioned, he was a committee person. One of, I believe, about 80 committee people in Hoboken who represented a few small blocks. And then he became a councilman. And then he eventually became a mayor. Before I became Attorney General, I was a line prosecutor who got sworn in the basement of a government building in Brooklyn, New York, almost 15 years ago. And you work your way up, you get involved. So my message, my secret sauce would be to start small. To start small in public service, but to start somewhere. Because I think there's no substitute for us being in the room when decisions are made, or at the table when policies are decided. There's no substitute for being able to highlight issues that affect the Sikh community when I'm sitting with the state police, or when I'm sitting with law enforcement and we're coming up with policies on how to deal with our minority communities and with immigrant communities. And I think if we do that, if we get engaged, if more of us from the Sikh community answer that call to service, I think we can ensure that the generations to follow us can live in a society free from hatred and intolerance. That we can live in a society where we can continue to enjoy the promise of the American dream, looking the way we do and believing the way we do. And I think that's why groups like this one exist. That's why the Sikh American Chamber of Commerce exists, to nurture those who will break the next barriers. And that's why this evening we honor so many trailblazers and pioneers. So to the SACC, I'm incredibly honored to have been here with you this evening. I look forward to working with each of you in the months and years to come as we build that next generation of leaders, and selfishly as we build that next generation of public servants. And if we do that, there's no doubt that our next generation will survive and thrive in this country. So thank you so much.